With the track making, like you were, talking about Rhodeses and guitars and stuff. Like, what comes first for you? I'm always interested in when people are making beats. Is it rhythm heavy or is it?
I think the musical idea comes first. And that might be a chord progression, that might be a sample, that might be a bass line, but that's what I build around and drums under, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was a combination. I really was interested in sampling, but I didn't have an MPC. I had a computer and I had a keyboard and a bass guitar, and I used a tracker, there was a tracking scene at the time.
Yo, Mod Plug. When he showed me that shit, dude, it looked like he was about to launch a fucking missile. I'm like, dog, what is this? Like, that was when I really saw, like, the way his brain works is just different. Because it's not, Mod Plug is a program, and I'm not like the super techie guy, but like, we recorded that first album in Cool Edit Pro, which is now Adobe Audition, but it was Cool Edit. That was what we did all the vocals in, and it's just a basic DAW, so it's, it's side to side. Mod Plug is vertical.
Yeah.
So
like the Matrix.
No, it's literally like the
looks
Matrix,
like the
bro.
Matrix when
he
you have
pressed
it
play
running.
on a beat, and then you just start see all this shit flying. I was like, bro, what the fuck is that? But that's what he made beats on, and I was like, yeah, he did.
So is this the legend of other beat makers that I know? Right. What was the standard at the time, and what? Like, when I found out that Joe Ron Bombay was making these beats on Sony Acid, these really cheap, like my first Sony kind of.
Yeah.
What were you using?
I didn't know what the standard was, and my brother, my younger brother, had introduced me to trackers, which is essentially a machine code kind of thing where you can load little WAV files in and trigger them by using certain codes. And so it started with, you have 4 tracks. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was 8 tracks. I think by the time I started working with them, it was like 8 tracks. And at some point you had 16 tracks of having sounds together.
So you're doing a song like Daykeeper with this sort of
so
primitive...
Daykeeper, at that point, I had at least 60. But yeah, I did Daykeeper like that. I did Take Off, like
the whole first album, all the connected, first 2 records, yeah.
The Leave It All Behind album, I started getting into Pro Tools because somebody told me, like, look, dog, like, if you need
There's another way.
Right. You need to really professionalize, or need to was a big word, but like, they were like, yo, most of the pros use Pro Tools, and so I started, but like...
Wait, I don't feel bad now, because one of the things that I feel horrible about. All right, you see the smug look on Steve's face right now? Man. I'm in such a zone with this Endgame record right now with the Roots. But when I tell you the embarrassingly kind of primitive way that I'm building this record, like, yes, I read how half of Nation of Millions was built by them as an actual jam session.
Right.
Each guy had a 1200, manually pressing the samples by themselves, not programming shit.
And even the mixes too, they would mix live and bring stuff
and
up,
the Beastie Boys admitted that every sample in Paul's Boutique was basically just lined up one by one, and then they would just do that. But there's no like programming and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so like, I'm also inspired by, like, again, like the whole Sony Acid story and that sort of thing. So like, I've been like...
You think you're the Lost Bomb Squad member.
Yeah, I do. I just, I do. But it's just the fact that, like, sometimes I let it get to me that, see, you're not a real beat maker. Like, you're actually looping the stuff from your Serato DJ thing, like...
Hey, man.
And
whatever works.
Exactly. And I think I had a little bit of that, I guess what you call it, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, right.
Where you're like, okay, I'm not using the, like, I remember the first time we met up, after we met for the first time.
Right.
And Connected had been pressed up. We met in New York in July of 2004. And we did something called Beat Society, which is where producers come out and essentially play their beats.
That's right.
And so I came out with my little laptop.
You did Beat Society?
I did Beat Society and Knitting Factory. And that's the first time we literally performed together. But I came out with my laptop and I realized, like, okay, like, like everybody else is using MPCs, and
Right.
I'm just here like as though I'm checking my email.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Looking
But
like
I would
Kraftwerk
just,
on
you know,
stage,
yeah,
right?
right, like Kraftwerk. Like, but it was one of the first times where I realized, like, yeah, I had no idea. I had no real knowledge of how the music was made, and so I just used what I know. Again, my brother had introduced me to. I knew Cubase existed and stuff like that, but I didn't have that. So it became a weapon of choice. It became my secret weapon because I learned to use it in such a way that I could really make it do whatever I wanted.
Yeah. And that was our story, I think. Like a big part. It was really just about using the tools you have, just making do with what you have. You know, it was when people would ask, like, "Oh man, so making the internet, like, oh man, making an album, that's so crazy." Like, it was just this crazy idea.
And I'm one of those people.
Yeah, but yeah,
Right.
I'm just like, dude, he was in the Netherlands, I was in Durham. What else are we gonna fucking do?
For us, it was kind of,
Yeah,
we never
just-
even thought about it like that. We were just like, yo, like I like what you're doing. He likes what I'm doing. Let's do it.
When you're part of the analog generation, though, and I was a very much stuck in my ways person, I just couldn't fathom, like, wait, I don't see how they're doing that. Like, emailing stuff at the same time. And, like, it was just such a storied, uncharted thing. Was this before, like, when did GarageBand come out?
GarageBand was that was later. GarageBand for me personally, I started in GarageBand 2009. Yeah, 2009. That was when I built my studio at home, and so I had everything, all the old LB stuff, like the first two Foreign Exchange albums. That was at the Chop Shop in Durham, and we tracked all those vocals and cool-let it, and then 2009, I built my studio at the crib, and I used GarageBand. So like Authenticity, my first solo album, Charity Starts at Home, all those records, like those are all GarageBand. I cut all that stuff in GarageBand. It was free.
At the time, it was free.
Yeah.
What is it, the game changer that people claim that it was, or?
I don't know. I don't know if I say it. For me, it wasn't so much a game changer. I think it was just, by that time, I had learned that, like, listen, it doesn't matter what you're recording into. It's all about the signal that you're sending. You gotta, in the recording process, really the recording engineer is God. You know what I mean? Because
You hear that, Steve?
it's not gonna your
This is
your
God
song,
speaking.
The record, my fault, bro. The recording engineer, because your song is not gonna rise above whatever the signal is. So, you know, if you got a choice between buying, you know, a crazy mic, a $3,000 mic or whatever, but you haven't treated your room first, that mic is just gonna pick up your room. You know what I mean? So you probably would be better off spending some money treating your room, and you get a little $200 something, and, you know, you can make that work. And so that was kind of my approach. And so I started doing those records in GarageBand, and what I liked about it, it was simple. And then also when I upgraded to Logic in like 2012, Logic is basically GarageBand on steroids. So how I learned Logic was I would take my old GarageBand sessions and open them up in Logic and just kind of work backwards and be like, oh, okay, so this is what reverb is, this is where the delays is, and I would learn it like that. So GarageBand for me, I mean, you know, people clowned on it, but I made crazy records in GarageBand.
But Logic was around for a long time before it turned into the Logic we know today. There was
Yeah.
a Logic that was that had the Node.
The
and all
eMagic
that.
Logic?
Yeah, the
Oh
eMagic.
God,
That was
yeah,
like-
that was eMagic
that
shit.
looked what I think is like your like Matrix. It was really hard to understand, and that's when there was like a Pro Tools sequencer, and then finally Logic became the visual thing that it is today. And I think that's what people liked about GarageBand was you looked at it and it was pleasing to look at and easy to use.
Nah, because you got to think about it. Like, if you mixing something, I mean, you're looking at that screen for fucking hours. So it was really, from my experience, it was really intuitive. It was just very easy to use. And I was not the super techie, like, engineer guy. I just kind of knew what I liked and just kind of how to get that, and that was it. You know what I mean?
So when do you think you'll ever have enough money to buy Pro Tools?
Nah, I'm Logic, dog. I'm Logic to the end.
Okay.